For 5a, it's going to be another problem where you have to establish the identity, but it's going to be one where you have to establish the identity with double angles as we see here. So this one actually has two different double angles that we have to use. Now there is only one double angle, so I'm going to write on the side here what double angles that you want to use for each one. So here is sine 2x. There's only one of them. So we have 2 sine x cosine x there. For the one down below, cosine 2x, we need to choose which one. There's three different ones that you can use here, but we want to pick the one that allows us to simplify with something else we already have. So down here, I see that I have a cosine. So when I look at all three of the identities for cosine 2x, I want to pick the one that has just a cosine in it. So there's cosine squared minus sine squared, but I don't want to use that one because then I'll end up with two different trig functions. I don't want to use sine squared anywhere because then I can't combine with cosine. So the one that I'm going to use here is going to be 2 cosine squared x minus 1. So you'll have to choose which one to use. This is the best one to use. So these are the two identities that we're going to use here. So let's replace sine 2x, and we're going to instead put 2 sine x cosine x, and we have minus sine x on top there. On the bottom here, I'm going to use 2 cosine squared x minus 1, and then I have plus cosine x, and that's what I have on the bottom on that one. On the other side, I'm not going to do anything with the right-hand side, but I do want to write that as we go along here. So this is the right-hand side. We'll just leave that as is. Okay, so now what's left here is we want to factor, if we can, on the top. So on the top there, we can pull out a common factor of sine x. And if we do that, we'll get 2 cosine x minus 1. So just divide all this by sine, and then divide this one by sine. That's where we get the minus 1 here. On the bottom, we're going to rearrange this and do 2 cosine squared x plus cosine x minus 1. Okay, so now we have that one. And this is going to be cosine here. All right, so now that we have that complete, we're going to factor the bottom. Now this one, the top one, we just factored out a common factor there, just sine x, and we got that one. But the bottom one here, that requires factoring that looks like this. You're going to have like two sets of parentheses for that one. In order to get 2 cosine squared, one of these needs to be a 2 cosine and the other one needs to be a cosine. So that way when we multiply them, we'll get 2 cosine squared. Now there's a 1 in the end here, so I'll put a 1. That's really the only thing we can do with that. That's the only factor of 1 is 1 and 1. Now we just have to play around with the sign. So we want to get a positive cosine. So if we make this a plus and this a minus, we're going to get 2 cosine squared plus 2 cosine minus cosine. That's going to give you a positive cosine there. Minus 1 and plus 1 gives you the minus 1 on the end. Again, this here, we're not changing anything. We're just rewriting this all the way down here. Once we do this, we see here that we can cancel out the 2 cosine from the top and the bottom. And that's going to now allow both sides to be equal. So now we can do sine x over cosine x plus 1, and that's going to equal sine x over cosine x plus 1. So now we have both sides are now equal.